Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 17 of the Nosebleeds section podcast. My name is Nick, alongside my co-host Thomas, and we have an interesting one for you today. Last episode, we talked about Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi plays for Barcelona, which plays in La Liga, or that's the name of the division the division conference that they play in. And in this whole debacle that Messi wants to leave Barcelona, with the clause in his contract that says he can leave for free at the end of each season, they're quoting that, that ends in June, and because the season went past, we're not in June anymore, we're technically the next year. So Barcelona's not letting Messi leave, and La Liga's siding with Barcelona on the whole thing. So more or less saying Messi can't leave Barcelona unless someone puts in a bid. But also with that, Messi just hasn't shown up to anything preseason wise for Barcelona. They had preseason COVID testing, they had a bunch of things, and he just hasn't shown up. Now, my whole interpretation on it, right? I don't really understand why La Liga would really side with a team since they're like they're the league. But my whole thing is, if Messi doesn't play there, they don't get the views and ratings that they would normally get. Like, some people just watch it. It's like, Messi's on, so I'm going to go watch Messi. So I feel like that's why they're publicly stating that they're siding with Barcelona. Like, I feel like it's kind of a publicity stunt, but also for them, like, if Messi leaves, there's no giant and exciting name in La Liga. There's a lot of good players and a lot of big names, but there's no, like, Ronaldo left, Messi left. There's no Neymar. Suarez isn't as interesting just by himself. It's just weird to me that the league would come out and say they sided with this team, because the way soccer works in Europe and everything, it just doesn't seem that they would side with anyone. Just more or less like the teams are kind of like their own independent clubs. They're just like a part of this bigger league. They're just all independent. Where in the U.S. it's completely different. Where if you're a team in a league, you are a part of that league. Where the league will have more or less have a statement on like you as a team. It's not really like that in like for soccer or football in Europe. They're very like by themselves. It's just interesting to me. What are your thoughts on why you think a league would comment and say like, because I obviously like in the U.S. if like something like this happened with like Tom Brady, right? He just didn't show up to the Patriots. Like, I'm talking about like prior years. Like, and like this whole thing, like with like if there was some like incredible buyout or clause in his contract, I don't think the NFL's gonna comment on it probably. But this is not really seen. Like, there's been many cases of players just like not showing up to try to force a transfer. So like, what are your thoughts on why the league would comment on this?
I think what you brought up in the points of saying that if he leaves, they have no big name is definitely the main point. Just because if we go off the fact, like you bring up Tom Brady in the NFL, obviously he's never held out or something. But the NFL as a league knows that it's between him and the Patriots, and like Tom Brady, or as the time would have been, they know like those teams, like those two sides would have had to work it out themselves, and he would have still been playing in the NFL. Where I feel like Messi does have the opportunity to leave the league, so that means the league losing revenue, losing that huge player, which is probably why the league would pick a side, just because it's not Messi retiring like it would be in the NFL, or like Brady's not going to a different league. The NFL is the highest league you could go to. In soccer, there's obviously multiple different leagues that have high-tier teams and high-tier players, so I could definitely feel like just because of his stature and the amount of money he brings to the league itself, they don't want to lose him. But I also want to ask you a question, obviously you being the huge soccer nerd. Has this ever happened before? Like, I know Messi's a huge name, so it's a big deal, but has a player ever just not shown up before?
Yeah. It's happened a lot actually. I think another like big name. I think Neymar might have done it to Barcelona when he wanted to leave to
Oh,
go to
wow.
PSG. I could be wrong on like Neymar doing that, but like so many players have done that where they just haven't shown up and they're like, I'm not showing up until you like give me a transfer. Because Again, there's like other leagues you can go to or another team that because it's all independent. It's not like you're going from for Tom Brady, for example, from the Patriots to the Bucks. You're still in the same league. It's ran by the same exact people, and like the only difference is like maybe the people you have behind it, which is a whole nother story. But when you can just change backgrounds and it's as if you're in a completely different environment, even though it's like the same league. Like in the NFL, you're playing for this. I mean, I don't know how to explain it because it sounds like the same way. Like if you're Messi, right? I'll use Barcelona, Real Madrid. If you're at Barcelona and you go to Real Madrid, it's like a completely different feeling. Although you're competing for the exact same thing. But like if you go from the Patriots to the Buccaneers, yeah, it's a different feeling, and yeah, it's like a different team. But like, what really changes? I don't know how to explain it because I feel like I don't know football as much. But the way like soccer is like staying in the same league but a different team because it's so independent could mean so many things. But also you have a chance to lose your spot in that league, which I guess is what I'm going at. Like you can go from like the first division, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could be relegated to the second division, and it could take forever to get back up. Like a big example is a team called Leeds. Leeds United just got promoted this year. I think the last time they were in the Premier League was like 2009, but they used to be like one of the most successful football or soccer teams in England. They got relegated, and they just haven't been back up for like 10 years. Right? You don't have that kind of pressure of like going to a different team that might be better, that might be worse. And also, like everyone has their own transfer budget and transfer money. There's no cap. You can just buy whoever you want.
Soccer, the transfer fees are insane. Like I saw the Messi transfer fee just for the team willing to buy him is $700 million.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
insane.
buyout clause. It's absurd to just have that kind of money on your buyout clause.
And he doesn't get any of that, right?
No,
Yeah, that's
that
crazy.
would go to Barcelona.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But that would mean like if you're gonna pay $700 million, his contract's already insane. But again, going to a different team and maybe a different environment is helpful in places in the NFL. And I think the biggest place that everybody kind of just wants to get out of is Jacksonville, where Yannick Ngakoue, Jacksonville's probably best defensive end, probably one of the better defensive ends in the league, I would argue, got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he's been trying to go for a trade for past a year and a half, I think. And Jacksonville's just like, no. But everyone just wants to get out of Jacksonville, apparently, because in 2017, Jacksonville had like 6 or 7 defensive Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
They don't have a single one left. Ngakoue was the last one they had left. Give me your thoughts on this, because as much as I kind of know about football, and as much as just seeing like a team from 3 years ago have 7 Pro Bowlers, they were pretty young too. 7 pretty young defensive Pro Bowlers to having none. Try to give me an insight or give me an idea. What is going on in Jacksonville that is so terrible that no one wants to stay there?
I feel like Jacksonville for a long time was kind of a place where no one hated going, but nobody loved going. It wasn't a premier organization, but it wasn't one of the ones that people avoided. And then they have that phenomenal breakout year where no one expected them to go to the AFC Championship, and they lose in that game to the Patriots. But looking forward, like you said, they have all those young Pro Bowlers on the team. They had Leonard Fournette. Like their offense seemed to be on the upswing, even though Blake Bortles was their quarterback, and even though they made it to the AFC Championship, everyone kind of knew he was the weakest point of that team. A lot of players, I feel, got mad over the Blake Bortles situation and how that was handled. That was handled really poorly. And then we see last year it came out that Tom Coughlin, who is the former Giants head coach, won Super Bowls there, he has been the team president, I believe that's his title, or maybe something else, but somewhere along the lines. He was forcing players to come to off-season activities, and that's actually not allowed in the NFL. And not that players, I'm not saying that players should have to or shouldn't have to, but when a player is forced to come to something when they don't have to, it's obviously going to change their mindset about the organization. Like, this person doesn't really care about me. They just want me to be here at any convenience for them. So I feel like that started it, and it just developed into. I mean, the Jaguars got sued, and Tom Coughlin got fired last year over all the allegations that came out. So I feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars just have not been run well, and we saw it with Ngakoue. I think it was a few months ago at this point. We definitely knew he was never going to suit up in a Jaguars uniform when he was literally fighting on Twitter with the son of the Jaguars, or the son of the Jaguars owner on Twitter. Like when that happens publicly, there's no solution. I mean, they tried to work it out, and Ngakoue was done. It took a long time for the trade. I think that's the most surprising part for me. But it's just the Jaguars have been a terribly ran team for a long time, or a few years at least, I should say. And I think all those young players are now getting towards the middle of their prime, towards the end of their prime, and they want to go to a place where they're going to win. So I feel like that's why we've seen so many people get out. But we know it's the NFL. A couple draft picks, and you can go make a run like the Jaguars did a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, draft picks are, I would say, like, at least the top draft picks, like the first 2-3 rounds are crucial in the NFL. You can always find like a late bloomer,
yeah,
and everything, but I feel like the first 3 rounds are extremely crucial because you can find someone who like maybe didn't have a good collegiate career because there was like a senior that was ahead of them for 3 years, and they had like a pretty good like senior year when they finally got their chance to be that number one. But I mean, I just back to my main point, like I the whole Tom Coughlin thing, having them show up when they weren't, like he made it mandatory when it wasn't supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like it just doesn't make sense how you have I'll even say 5, even if it's 5 players in 2017 that are Pro Bowlers, and you let every single one of them leave, and they all left on bad terms. Like I don't think a single one left on good terms.
No, I can't think of one.
Which is the issue, like that I see with it. Like you have all these insane players, and every single one of them leaves on bad terms. Like how does that happen? And on top of that, right, Leonard Fournette wants to leave. He's not happy being there.
Yeah.
You made Gardner Minshew the face of your franchise. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Gardner Minshew's a terrible quarterback. He had 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He threw for 3,200 yards. Not terrible. But you have Leonard Fournette. Gardner Minshew should not be the face of your franchise. You had Jalen Ramsey. Gardner Minshew should not be the face of that franchise. You have all these insane players, and you're making Gardner Minshew the face of your franchise. Decent QB, but you have better players around you, and now you forced 5 players out, and now Leonard Fournette's on his way out within the next 2 years. There's no shot he signs his contract back.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't trade him. Something's going on in Jacksonville that like just isn't going on around anywhere else in the NFL.
Well, I think what we've seen over the last few years is the fact that a lot of owners are being talked about in the NFL a lot more recently. And I feel like the NFL, just because there's so many people on a team that the owners have to hire so many like player personnel, employees, and other positions that a lot of other sports don't have. And I mean, the Jaguars were sold a few years ago to Shahid Khan. And ever since then is kind of when the questionable move started in the front office. And I feel like that's really where it started. So I feel like in a few years, I know we have Dan Schneider, the Jets owner, Woody Johnson, and Christopher Johnson, who's running it right now. They've been put under fire recently. I feel like in a couple of years, we might hear of Shahid Khan just because he's not handling that franchise very well in the moment. He's only owned it for a few years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, something's got to change. Something's like, I don't know, just something's going on, and something there needs to change. I think very similar, like either change is coming in Washington, kind of like a similar, although Washington's nowhere near as bad. But Dan, a lot of people just don't like Dan Schneider. That's my personal opinion. But this I didn't put down as a topic because I wanted your straight up thoughts. I didn't want you to prepare for this. I just want this to be your straight up thoughts, all right?
All right.
Coming into the football season, probably one of the biggest things going on around football besides betting. I mean, I guess it technically is betting, but fantasy football, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so many people play fantasy football. It's just kind of, even if you don't know football that much, I still find if you don't know football, you still manage to end up in a fantasy football league. It just happens, but we're gonna go position by position.
Oh.
Who are your top 5 quarterbacks going in fantasy quarterbacks going into the 2020-2021 season?
Top 5 fantasy quarterbacks.
Top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. See, I didn't want you to prepare because you would go by stats and things like that.
Yeah.
I want you. I mean, you can kind of go base it off stats. Like, I feel like I know your top 2, probably your top 3, maybe 4. But in general, who are your top 5 fantasy quarterbacks? And is there a quarterback you think is going to be an absolute sleeper that is going to have a better year than anyone even thinks that they're going to have?
I do think that, but I'm going to...
Because I have one as well, and I feel like we might think of the same one. I want to see what you're thinking. Who your top 5? You can go 5 to 1, 1 to 5. You can do it in no order.
I'm going to go 1 to 5. I don't know if it'll be in order, but I'm going to start with who I think is towards the better. Number 1, I say is Russell Wilson. I know a lot of people may say it's Lamar Jackson, but I think Russell Wilson as a fantasy quarterback has more pass attempts per game because his team's not always winning like Lamar Jackson's was last year. So I feel like he's a better fantasy quarterback. Then I'm going to go Lamar Jackson. I'd probably go... I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. And this where all right. I gotta think of one more because there's definitely someone I'm missing, but somebody I think is gonna be a sleeper. Now he's always been a person I feel like has been drafted somewhat highly, but he's never been that great of a fantasy quarterback. I think it's gonna be Tom Brady, especially after last season. He did not have a good fantasy season at all. But he's in a brand new offense with Bruce Arians. And Bruce Arians, I mean, any quarterback that he's had in the past, Jameis Winston, he revived Carson Palmer's career when he was in Arizona. He was Andrew Luck's quarterback coach. He is a guy that throws the football almost every play. And Tom Brady, one of the most efficient passers of all time, I don't see how Tom Brady isn't putting up at least better numbers than he was last year. So I still feel like he was probably like top 15 or something quarterbacks in fantasy last year, but I think he moves into that top 5 slot. He could even go higher just because of that offense he's going around. And then the only other person I could think of to maybe even put in the top 5 is Aaron Rodgers, and that's just because I think he's great.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't say Mahomes?
No, he's the same reason with Lamar Jackson, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're fantasy. I'm talking about fantasy quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which means
they're getting you minimum of 15 plus points a game.
I mean, I guess I just feel like other quarterbacks, the more you throw the ball realistically, the more points you have. That's what you have to think about. Like, even you know what? Actually, maybe I would put him over Aaron Rodgers just because Aaron Rodgers is getting older. I'm not gonna lie, he kind of did slip my mind. I guess I just kind of assume he's the best quarterback. But yeah, so him instead of Aaron Rodgers. But that would be my top 5. What about you?
That's an interesting top 5. You see, I'm going kind of the opposite way of you. I'm saying like 1 and 2 is Lamar and Mahomes. In no order. Like I feel like either both of them are just gonna be good. They can both run and throw. 3 is Russell Wilson. I just feel like he has a couple more weapons, especially this year, because I think Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback, but he's throwing to an older. Like he doesn't have many good receivers. They got I can't think of his name. He went from the Saints to the Rams, and now he's on the Texans, I think.
Oh, Brandon Cooks?
Yeah.
I don't know if he is on Texans. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's Brandon Cooks, but I mean he doesn't really have anyone to throw to.
Yeah.
Last year he had he had options.
Yeah, I just like mobile quarterbacks. That's the reason I put him there.
Yeah, I think he's good. Don't get me wrong. I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna have an insane season, especially because they drafted Jordan Love. So I think he's just gonna ball out. And then, so I got 4. My 5th quarterback. Okay, I'm gonna say Deshaun Watson because I still think Deshaun Watson is gonna have a good year, and I think he's a good quarterback. But I'm gonna be honest, a close 6, and my actual sleeper for who I have, Kyler Murray.
I can see that. He's got a great
And
receiving core.
that exactly. He's got a great receiving core. He's a really good mobile quarterback. And I think his offensive line has improved. I think he's going to be a quarterback that's going to be like, oh, like, I didn't expect that from you this year. I think he's going to be good. Moving on. Who are your top 5 running backs?
Oh, see, this one's hard. You put me on the spot. We just saw me miss Patrick Mahomes in the top 5 quarterbacks. You want? No, I know you want me to go first, just because I'm put on the spot. I mean, obviously number one.
But the thing was, like, I prepared this. Like, I was ready for this.
Well, I didn't, so I feel like
exactly. Like, I did it to put you on the spot. So instead of like looking up stats and saying, oh, this guy caught 25 passes compared to this guy's 10, but the guy with 10 ran for like 600 more yards or something. Like, I just wanted you to straight up off the top of your head, who do you think are the top 5?
All right. So obviously number one is, I think, the best fantasy player that we've seen in a long time. And that's Christian McCaffrey. He's probably everyone's number 1 overall pick in the draft. I'm then going to go Saquon Barkley. He's had a rough season last year. The Giants improved their offensive line a little bit. The team is just going to get into the second season. Brand new head coach, or second season with Daniel Jones. Brand new head coach. I think he flourishes again. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. Obviously had a phenomenal season with the Tennessee Titans. That makes sense.
Just he can't be tackled.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go Nick Chubb with the Browns. Think he'll be good.
I think Nick Chubb.
And then final one is, I'm going to say Dalvin Cook from the Vikings.
Oh, really? That's actually not who I would have said. Ooh. I had the same 4. I was saying Josh Jacobs.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Josh Jacobs. I also think, that just at the top 5. I think Dalvin Cook's good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's bad. Just a bit iffy on him, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think he's bad. I think he's gonna be pretty good. I think Austin Eckler's still gonna be pretty good as well. Aaron Jones even had a good year last year.
Yeah. Very good.
So
year.
like he could be pretty good, especially because Aaron Rodgers is getting older. Maybe they try to run the ball a bit more. I think.
So neither of us said Zeke.
Running backs are pretty good. I think Edwards-Helaire could have a decent year. He's like one of the only running backs at Kansas City.
Yeah.
But that also depends on how much they decide to run the ball with Patrick Mahomes. Right? Who are your top, I'll say 6 wide receivers, because wide receivers you normally play 2.
Okay, so number 1, I think, is Michael Thomas, stud with New Orleans. I know you love to hear that. Then I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins. I think he'll flirt with Kyler Murray, like you said before. Good receiving court. Maybe gives him even more opportunities than last year. I'll go Mike Evans. Weird one, I know. Just because, again...
I could see it with Brady.
Yeah, exactly. Same reason. And then I got to go Julio. I love Julio. That's a little biased.
I'm going to be honest. I got scared. I thought you weren't going to say Julio.
Yeah. I'm still going to put Julio.
You saved Julio for a bit. I was like,
Yeah. And then I'm going to go... I guess I'm just going to stick with Devontae Adams from Green Bay. I feel like that's a safe pick.
Interesting. See, all right, so my 6, I think Julio, Mike Thomas up there, easy too. DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, I'm a bit iffy on Mike Evans, so I'm not really actually going to say Mike Evans. I got 3. I think, I don't know if I want to put Devontae Parker up there. I really don't want to. Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper's going to be good.
Good pick.
What was that, 4? Yeah, that's 4, right?
I believe so.
4. I think I'll say Devontae Adams, just because I feel like he's still the only playmaker that Green Bay has.
Exactly.
So he's like the only option for them to throw to. I don't think they could really throw to anyone else. And I'm going to say it because I am a little biased because he's on my fantasy team. But Odell. I think Odell's going to have a resurgence this year with a much different offense in Cleveland. A much different offense that instead of, because I feel with Freddie Kitchens, they changed their game plan from kind of short pass, not just short passes, but a mix, to just sending Odell long and seeing if Baker can like stay in the pocket long enough to throw deep. But the thing is, the pocket collapsed very quickly, so like those deep options weren't there. I think Odell's gonna have a much better year this year, and I can see him as a top 6 wide receiver again. I can, or maybe like he picks up his from where he was last year. I think almost anything he does is an improvement, but I think it's gonna be a much bigger improvement where he goes from that kind of I don't know if he's picked in the first 3-4 rounds to he should be picked in the first or second round. I feel like he can put himself back up there. All right, what about tight ends? And I'm gonna say 4 tight ends because I feel
5
tight ends are very far and few between, and there's only like really 3 or 4 that you're like, oh, I want them, and if you don't get them, you're like, oh, I can just wait another 6 rounds until I draft one.
So we're doing 4. I'm just gonna go with the 4 that I think of. Like the only 4 I could even think of off the top of my head. So obviously, I would say the best is George Kittle number 1.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce number 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Mark Andrews from the Ravens at number 3, and Zach Ertz at number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I debatable on putting Zach Ertz over Mark Andrews. That's why I said that. But yeah, I don't really see anyone else. Kind of.
I can't even think of any others, to be honest.
Dude, I'm trying to go down a list right now, and I can't.
Unless Gronk makes it in there.
Oh, true, Gronk. Maybe.
That's risky to pick him though. Early at least.
Evan Ingram. I don't think Evan Ingram's that good though. The Saints have a couple good, like Jared Cook. I think is pretty good.
He's just old. That's the only problem.
Yeah, he is, but I don't know. I think like there's a chance like that they. Yeah, I feel like it's just those 4. There's not many others you can kind of like think of.
Yeah.
That I feel are gonna be like game changers to your fantasy team. But yeah, that's just the way I feel. But yeah, I want to do something a little different. I wanted to put you on the spot there. I wanted to make it a little difficult and make you kind of think on your toes. Yeah, because when you look at stats and you look at like projections and everything, like it's a lot easier to be like, oh, like these are the people I want on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
But when you're thinking off the top of your head, you're like, oh, like this guy, that guy, and even like tight ends, for example. Other than like the top 4 or 5, like do you really know any others?
No.
Like they're not very like impact. The most impactful ones are the ones you know, and the others are not as impactful. But hopefully everyone else is preparing for the fantasy football season as much as the 2 of us are. I'm really looking forward to it. Also in the news, F1, Lewis Hamilton. I don't even want to talk about F1 because Lewis Hamilton is just, I think he's won every race except 1 so far. It's really not fair. It's like watching like the Patriots win in the Super Bowl. Just boring. The second round of the NBA playoffs, I believe, some games of the second round of the NBA playoffs have started. The Celtics and the Raptors are playing. The Lakers are going to the second round. The Thunder and the Rockets are still in the first round. I believe the Nuggets and the Jazz are as well. Both of those series should be concluded in the next coming days. But not really much to report on any of that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see ya.